Hello viewers, it's the Chris and John show again. We're from Vee Two Australia, it's Project 860. I've been we've had a bit on at the moment, so I'm probably a week or two out with this video, but we're still on the heads. You've seen before how we've taken out the guides and the valves and what to look for. John is the man that usually does all that. And we put the new valves and valve seats and valve guides in, and there's another two videos really, including this one, where we prepare the seats, we'll cut the seats and whatnot, and then it'll go to another guy, Craig, who basically does all the puts it all together and so on. But we just had a good morning this morning, reminiscing of owning or looking at 916 Ducatis, 888s, owning some of them, blah, blah, blah. Back when I had a full head of hair and we both had waistlines we could be proud of. You still got a full head of hair. But also, you'll notice I've been chipped for not wearing V2 stuff, right?
Got to wear a V2 shirt, even if you can't see it.
And it's freezing freaking cold here, but in the wilds of Nannup in Western Australia. But this is a t-shirt that you can buy. If you get on our website, just got to let us know the size you want.
Turn around.
And it's Retorno, which is return. But anyway, that's a line drawing of our Retorno engine. There's not that many in existence, is it?
No, only a handful so far.
But we're working on that.
We geared up to, I think we geared up to make about 20.
We are working on that, and there's a lot more stuff going on in the background that one-piece cranks and all sorts of stuff. So for bevels, like plain bearing cranks for bevels and all sorts of stuff. It's been done before, but not really on the scale that maybe it's going to get done. But anyway, it's all good. So once again, I'm going to jump behind the camera so I can get close-ups. John's going to explain the process, and we'll go from there.
All right, cameraman.
Right on.
When he puts his cup of tea down.
Righto, let's go.
All right, these are the Project 860 heads. This head here, you saw in the last video, putting the seats and the guides in. After they've been put in, this little edge here, that's where the chamfer for the combustion chamber is, that little edge there needs to be taken off. We also need to blend the port to match the dimension of the seat, so there's not a sharp lip there. And then on the inside, I don't know if Chris is going to be able to get in there, on the inside up here, where someone's already taken some aluminium out of the port before, now there's some of the seat is protruding into the combustion chamber, so we have to get in there with a blending tool and porting tool and take the sharp edge off the back of that, so that they're all blended and smooth. And then this head here we've already done, so everything is blended up and smooth. There's no sharp edges. These lips where in the combustion chamber, they've actually been taken off and smoothed out. So that one now is ready for the step today of cutting the seats, mating them up with the valves. This one still needs to be blended, but it will end up finished like this before we cut the seats. So that's the next step now, is setting this up and cutting the seats. Rightio, back again. Before we get on to cutting the seats, we have to prepare some valves. We make our own valves here at V2. Just a bit of a plug, you can buy these off our website. Before we use them, I've got to cut the seat surface area, and it's basically a 45-degree chamfer on the valve. They actually have got a seat there already, but we need to grind them. They've been heat treated, so we need to grind them just to make sure that the seat is actually 100% concentric with the valve stem itself. So we put into our trusty old valve grinder. probably ground more valves than I've had hot dinners. We're not taking a great deal off, we're just making sure it's got a perfect sealing area. Rightio, here we've just got a close up here. Now that I've ground the sealing area, we don't want to make the seat the full width of that valve surface area. So what we're going to aim for in cutting the seats is we're going to aim for getting the sealing area to be in the middle of that face. So there should end up being a small gap at the base and a small gap at the just before the margin of the valve as the sealing area. So it's not sitting right down at the base and it's not sitting right at the top. Sometimes, depending on the bore of the seat, sometimes that's not possible for the smaller diameter, depending on how big the bore is in the seat. So we'll give it a crack. We'll set the head up. We've got the mill set up permanently. We do so many heads. The mill set up permanently with an adjustable rig on it, an adjustable jig, so that we can line the guide bore needs to be running exactly concentric to the valve seating area. So we've got an adjustable jig because no two guides in the head are the same. So we set the head up on here, tilt it down this way, and have to set the tool up so it's concentric with the bore of the guide, and then we'll rotate the head over to do the exhaust. And we have to set up for each one because this one and that one won't be, they'll be in the head like that. So we have to, this jig can rotate sideways, and then we can rotate the head on the jig itself so that we can get everything lined up perfectly. Rightio, we jump back into it now. I've got the head set up. We've adjusted it all, got everything centralised so we can start cutting a seat. We've got the rocker pins actually in the head. We've got a special gizmo here for sitting on the rocker pins so that we can measure with this micrometer. We can measure from the valve tip to see how much protrusion is there, so that we end up not cutting the seat too deep and ending up in the wrong end of the shim range. That's an important part. We've got specs on all these different engines, on the Springers, on the Desmos, how far that tail of the valve should sit through, so that we know we'll end up in the middle of the shim range once we start assembling the head. All right, so the first cut we do is the 45. We're only basically cutting a seat so we can blue the valve up and put the valve in and make sure we are central in the hole and we're getting a seat all the way around before we cut it down to depth. Okay, we've done the first cut. I haven't cut down to depth yet because I just wanted to make sure that the valve is actually concentric in the hole. So as you can see, I've blued the valve with some bearing blue, put it in the hole, rotated it round, and it's made contact all the way around. So the next step is now to cut down to depth. We've got a special measuring tool under here with a micrometer in it that you won't have at home, obviously. So when I drop the valve in, I can measure to the tip of the valve with the micrometer. We've got a list of specs, which will mean they won't be relevant to anyone at home. You'll have to do it with your vernier or with your ruler. But we measure from the tip of the valve to the vernier. I've just measured this one, and I've still got 1 millimeter to cut out of the hole. So now I'm happy that the valve is actually central. I can now cut that 1 millimeter down, and then that is the actual sealing area for the valve. And then after that, I can take the crown off and the throat out so that I can control then where the seat actually sits on the valve. We want it, and as I said previously, we want it to sit halfway or in the middle of the actual valve seat. So I'll show you that in a minute once we've cut it. So I've changed the cutter now. I've put a cutter with a different angle. Now I've cut down to depth, and I'm happy with where the depth of the seat is. Now I'm going to chop off the top of the seat and reduce that contact area. At the moment, the blued contact area is too wide for the seat. So I want to chop that down so that I can get the So now I've changed it. We've taken the crown off to where I'm happy with the position of the seat after bluing up the valve again. So now I'm going to cut the inside, the throat, out of the seat until I get the seat width to where I want it. At the moment it's probably 3.5 mil wide, and I probably want it to be just under 2 mil wide. So this one is cutting the angle out of the inside. So now I've taken the throat out. It didn't take much. You can see on this side how much I've taken out. It was only a small amount. That's the width of the seat there that I've got now with the black marker. That's the width of the seat. And then if you look at the valve, you can see where I've blued it. Top and bottom, there's a ring of the blue that has been missed. So when we lap this in, we still lap our valves. A lot of people, a lot of machine shops now don't lap their valves. We still lap them so we can vacuum test them to make sure they are actually sealing. rather than it just be a given that they do seal. We never have a problem with it, but when you lap that now, you'll see on the lapped valve where the actual seat is. I might have another one over here, Chris. This is another valve that's already been lapped into a head, and you can see the polished ring top and bottom, so the valve seat is actually in the middle of that chamfered 45. That's what we're aiming for. Okay, so now I've taken that. We won't cut the other seat. It's the same process for the inlet as it is for the exhaust. But now, before the head goes away for assembly, we've got different size reamers, adjustable reamers set up to ream the guide out now. We leave a 0.01 clearance on the inlet valve, but we have a 0.03 clearance on the exhaust valve as obviously it gets hotter. So before they go off for assembly, we'll ream each one out. And then we've got a go, no-go gauge. So 1 inch 0.01, 1 inch 0.03, 8.01, 8.03, and the 01 should fit down the exhaust hole, the inlet hole, but the 03 won't go in. That's for the exhaust side. So before they get assembled, we put that clearance in. We also, in our guides, we make the guides, we also use an O-ring for a seal instead of a top hat seal. So the O-ring, Craig, when he assembles them, he'll put the small O-ring down inside the hole before the valve goes in, and that'll stop the oil from travelling down the valve, and also allows the top of the valve to actually get a bit of oil on it, whereas the top hat will prevent any oil going down inside the guide whatsoever. So we get a little bit of lubrication on the valve stem, on the top part of the valve stem, by running the internal O-ring. Okay, so that's it. We've just cut one seat in here. As I said, we won't do the other seat. The next, I'll get them done, and then we'll ship them out to Craig, and he can assemble them for us. Craig does all our assembly. These ones aren't so bad because it's a Springer head, so it doesn't have the closing. The valve closure isn't done by Desmo, it's done by a spring. I don't know whether some of them have got adjusters, so you don't even have to measure the shims on the top. You can just a nut and bolt adjuster. But I think these heads actually have shims. So the next video will probably be of the back of Craig's head, because he doesn't want to be on the videos with us.
No, he's camera shy, isn't he?
So you'll probably get to see his hands and hear him swearing a bit, but that's the end of the machining side of it. And then after he'll do the valve lapping and building the heads, but they'll also get a freshen up in the wet blaster. He'll plug up all the holes and get a freshen up in the wet blaster, so so my grubby hand marks aren't over the outside of him, which he doesn't like too much. So
yeah, well, we're continuing to fight the good fight with Project 860. So it's the paintwork's
99%.
Yeah, really. I might, you know what I might even do is aim it up there at the last thing. It's been painted. It's got to be now rubbed back. So it's got metal flake and whatnot. It's got to be rubbed back, stickers put on, and then cleared over, and then rubbed back again and buffed.
But
so
the viewers don't know the colour.
No,
you've kept that.
I have kept it. I haven't. So we'll just leave that out.
Yeah, we'll put that further down the track.
Yeah, right.
When we're getting closer to assembly.
Yeah. So hope you've been enjoying the videos. Thanks again for John's input into this. He really knows what he's doing. So it's great to see that. And
it's probably a part of the assembly that you probably won't be tackling at home. Not everybody's got a mill permanently set up for doing these heads. I mean, by all means, strip your engine down and ship us the heads, and we can do it for you, and put them in the post and send them back. If you've got an engineering shop in your backyard, by all means have a go, but hopefully We can answer any, if you do have a go, we can answer any more questions, technical questions you might have, but it's probably not part of the process that you probably will be attempting to
At
learn.
home. Yeah, that's right. So once again, if you like it, press like and subscribe. Buy a t-shirt if you want, and have a nice day. See ya.
See you later.